Hello, everyone, and today we discuss Democrats scrambling to find an identity. But first, let's check the markets as we open up today on Crypto TV. The markets in general have been zigzagging at a lull, and that's because, unlike Donald Trump's first presidential term, his focus this time is not immediately jump starting the economy. That was his first immediate task as president during the first term, is to focus on jump starting the economy. This time, after having some experience, his first task has been to get his presidential cabinet sworn in, approved and sworn in. And he's been successful at that. So first, we're going to give the different market prices for Bitcoin. Bitcoin is down $1,620 to the price of $89,022. Ethereum should be down in tandem as well. Ethereum is down $31.79 to the price of 2,210 US dollars. Let's check out S&P. We shouldn't expect much from the S&P. Oh, what just happened there? S&P has dropped $102 to the price of $5,749. So right now the S&P has dropped about $250, $300 in the last 10 days. So it has been losing ground. And I would imagine as well the Dow Jones Industrial Average is down $533 to the price of 42,473 US dollars. So all markets are down. And like I said before, President Trump was very successful in the first 6 months of his first term as president in 2017 by focusing on jump starting the economy. At the same time, he didn't really get a lot of his cabinet picks confirmed and sworn in until he hit the 2-year mark. So it really prevented him from doing a lot in his first 2 years. He's learned from that experience, and as a result, he has his agenda. He's met with he picked all of his cabinet. Remember, before he got in, he didn't know what he was doing. He then began to put a cabinet together, including picking a chief of staff and all of those things. This time, he immediately made his campaign manager his chief of staff. Once he was elected, he immediately met with all of these people. And he had already contacted them and said, look, I'm going to win. And very confidently, and in the event that I win, I want you to take this position. So all of these people met. He told them his agenda. They began planning. He was correct. They won by a landslide. Immediately, they began meeting again at Mar-a-Lago and setting out his agenda. And he immediately had already communicated with these people. So he was able, by Thanksgiving, he was able to began having like Tulsi Gabbard and AG Pam Bondi get interviewed. So he already had a few of his cabinet picks, as well as Kash Patel, and they slow walked Kash Patel to the very end. They delayed Pam Bondi, and then they slow walked Tulsi Gabbard. So let's see right now. But he's had 20 of his 22. So the only people, so Linda McMahon was sworn in. Now Lori Chavez DeRemer and Elise Stefanik, they're once again with Lori Chavez, they're going to delay both of these people until next week, maybe even 2 more weeks. So, but he has 20 of his 22 cabinet picks, as well as director of the FBI, Kash Patel, has already been confirmed and sworn in. And so they are already cooking with oil. Howard Lutnick, Secretary of Commerce, has begun revealing hints at the economic stimulus plan. And I don't believe it's going to take to the end of this month, and it's already March 6th. So by the end of March, that's when Kelly Loeffler, director of the Small Business Association, Howard Lutnick, and Scott Bessent, Secretary of Commerce, Secretary of Treasury, will get together. And they're still waiting for Lori Chavez, because she's Secretary of Labor. And so they're doing everything they can to just slow walk it. They're going to confirm these two last people, Elise Stefanik. Elise Stefanik has been a diehard Trumper since the first term. And so that is why they're delaying her. Lori Chavez is actually more of a Democratic-leaning person. So they're delaying and slow walking her because Donald Trump had the wisdom to pick her. Okay. So, but other than that, it'll be the end of March when we really begin to see the economic stimulus plan. But in addition, be aware that Doge is still, they're at 150 billion now. So, and right now, all the Democrats can do, like for the State of the Union, they reduce themselves to juvenile with holding up signs and blurbs. I mean, they are ridiculous. And to me, that I don't feel sad for them. It's actually humorous and quite hilarious. I'm taking joy in enjoying the fact that they don't have an identity. They don't know what they stand for. They've allowed DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion since Barack Obama. So they had 8 years of Barack Obama. They still kept pushing during the 4 years of Trump. And then during Biden, they went right back to it. So they have 16 years of digging their heels in on DEI, and now it's over with. And it's not going to come back anytime soon. So for the next 4 years, we don't have to worry about that. And because of that, all this stupidity and idiocy that they've been displaying for the last 16 years, without them having the extreme emotional outrage on ridiculous social issues that are always extreme, they don't have an identity. And that is what they allowed their party to be for the last 16 years. And now they don't have a leader because Barack Obama is out as their leader. Joe Biden is barely aware that his name is Joe Biden. Michelle Obama, she's out. And she took herself out. Stacey Abrams is out. And they all did this when they condemned and they called all black men racist and sexist. And so once they did that, and now Trump is president and black men overwhelmingly have voted for Donald Trump, and they want to say 20%. No, it's more like 70, 80% of black men voted for Donald Trump. So they are confused. And I was watching with an interview with one of the Cal State University, I think Cal State San Bernardino, political science professors there. And he could say anything positive about what Trump is saying. And all they can do is be negative. And this is a political scientist giving his opinions on the economy and the effectiveness of Doge. And they are lost. And we see now how our educational institutions are being led by, and hey, I participated as an undergrad too, and as a graduate student in leftward leaning politics. And I saw the light and how ineffective it is. But at least back then there was room for debate. Whereas today, 20 years later, you can't even debate in your college classes. And back in 1990, all through the 90s and the 2000s, we were debating in class our different political opinions, and now 20 years later, you can't even debate. You can't have a differing. If your opinion differs from the left, then they vilify you, and so you can't have any effective intellectual, educational, academic debate like in the traditional Socratic method. And so now you see that even the political science professors, they're not outraged, and they refuse to acknowledge that there's fraud, waste, and abuse. So they refuse to acknowledge it, they ignore it, and then the mainstream media and the Democrats in Congress, they like, we all, regardless of who's doing it, whether it's Democrats or Republicans, we all want to root out fraud, waste, and abuse. And with the Democrats, they refuse to acknowledge that it exists. They refuse to acknowledge that their party is the primary pushers of fraud, waste, and abuse. But they can only identify it when Republicans do it. And then they want to, whether it's Democrats or Republicans, they all want to say that it's Donald Trump's fault, even when he's not in office. And so that gets tired, and people have caught on to that. So it's disappointing when you see our elected leaders, whether they're Democrats or Republicans, that they're not shocked and alarmed that there's fraud, waste, and abuse. And it's also disappointing, but telling of the fake mainstream media that what they've done is doubled down. And now that they've lost the narrative, and most of the narrative is here on social media with people like myself, people with larger audiences like Joe Rogan and Stephen Gardner, that podcasters and social media, we're the people that are driving the narrative. And what the mainstream media has done is just double down on what they were doing before. And they should, like, if the mainstream media had, but that's the reason why they're losing relevance and going away, is because they should be in outrage that there's fraud, waste, and abuse. And what they should be doing is driving the narrative and exposing more of fraud, waste, and abuse, and broadcasting it out there, what Doge is doing, instead of saying it's okay. Because it's disappointing that what they're saying is okay, because it's not okay. So with that, we're out of here. We'll be back tomorrow with more news. Not a lot of financial news, and I've told you why, is that they're still waiting on Secretary of Labor, Lori Chavez, to get in there. And then the economy should be doing well, and market sentiment should be positive, because Doge is uncovering fraud, waste, and abuse. And they said 55 billion was not a lot, but we gave the Ukraine 350 billion to fight a losing war. So finding 55 billion of fraud, waste, and abuse in USAID, and now uncovering more in other departments to the tune of $150 billion, that is a lot to get excited about. So whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, whether you're mainstream media or your social media, everybody should be outraged about the fraud, waste, and abuse. And everybody should be celebrating that $150 billion has been saved from the American economy of waste, and U.S. taxpayers are protected. So with that, we're out of here. We'll be back tomorrow. I love you. God bless you all. Thank you for being here. Take care. We'll see you tomorrow.